The Seahawks offensive line has to be better next year if the Seahawks want to really go anywhere. And I think that it will dramatically improve, but a big piece of that is going to be the development of Charles Cross. So today, let's dive into his tape from his up and down 2023 season and talk about his role in this new offense. Charles Cross was drafted 9th overall in the 2022 NFL Draft. He was heralded as a great pass protector and a player who is inexperienced as a run blocker. And he certainly isn't some kind of mauler in the run game, but overall I was pretty impressed with how he blocked. Let's begin by looking at this play against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here the Seahawks are running a mid-zone weak concept. Let's break that down, starting by discussing what a zone run is. Run blocking schemes can be split into man concepts and zone concepts, and the biggest difference between the two is that man blocking schemes attack a specific gap, while zone runs allow the blockers and the running back to read out the concept as they go. This is why zone runs are very popular in the NFL because they allow for flexibility at the snap and during the play. If we pause this right when Geno gets the ball, we can see that the Steelers' defensive line moved right at the snap, and this is known as stemming the front. This can cause confusion for the offensive line because right at the snap, your blocking angles have radically changed. But because this is a zone running concept, the offensive line was already planning to adapt, so they're ready for this. Before the Steelers stemmed their front, Damian Lewis was going to kick out this 4-eye technique. And he's given the flexibility to either down block or kick out this player depending on the alignment of the defender. So once his assignment moves from 4-eye down to 3 technique, he changes his plan and now he's down blocking on this player. And this is the power of a zone blocking concept, is it allows your players to set themselves up to win instead of locking them into a potentially difficult assignment. So that's what a zone run aims to do, but what does mid-zone mean? Well, mid-zone just refers to any zone running play that aims somewhere between inside zone and outside zone, so it's middle zone or mid-zone. And the weak part of this concept in mid-zone weak just means that you're running it away from the strong side of the formation or the side that has these 3 tight ends. So mid-zone weak means that you're running a mid-zone zone running play to this left side in this case. Charles Cross has one of the most difficult assignments, but also one of the more simple. This is what is referred to as a base block. It's just a simple one-on-one where Cross needs to kick out this guy. I love how quickly Cross explodes out of his stance and how wide he gets when he makes contact. His hips are perfectly square and he has a lot of balance and strength. You can see just how much power he delivers with this punch, and he keeps his feet driving to really move this player. I know that it might look like Cross loses at the end because Highsmith gets off of this block, but I actually think that this shows how smart he is and how well he understands his role. He overplays to Highsmith's left shoulder because Cross wants to prevent him from sliding back down and making the play. Cross knows that it's completely fine to let Highsmith go around him as long as he has to come upfield and go around him that way because K9's going to already be gone. But again, Cross is not really a mauler. He's not going to take his assignment and block him into the first row of the bleachers. But what he does do is he executes his assignment pretty well. He also showcased athleticism as a move blocker when the Hawks got him out in space, and he was really good at getting to his spot and understanding blocking angles. In Ryan Grubb's new offense, this is going to be really important because Grubb loves to get all of his offensive linemen on the move, and this is exactly where Cross excels. I think that Cross is kind of underrated as a run blocker. He really surprised me with what he put on tape and was better than I expected. He's never going to be that guy that creates a ton of knockback, but he has an excellent understanding of the goal of the concept and where he needs to position himself. Alright, but let's be honest, Charles Cross wasn't drafted 9th overall for what he brings as a run blocker. He needs to be an excellent pass protector, and he certainly wasn't that last year. We're going to kind of talk about all of his strengths and his weaknesses at the same time, because if I had to sum up Cross as a pass protector, I would say that he loses in every single way. And he didn't lose a ton. He was a decent starter last year at left tackle, but when he did lose, there really wasn't any sort of pattern in how he lost. For tackles, there are generally 3 things that you look for to be able to hold up in pass protection. You want anchor to be able to stop the bull rush, athleticism to be able to cut off the edge, and the technique and skill to be able to stop a vast array of pass rush moves. Let's start with Cross's anchor. If there is one way that he lost more than the rest, I would say that it was because of his lack of anchor. But again, he did show flashes of development in this department as well. So let's look at this play again versus the Steelers, where Cross shows great anchor. He is facing Alex Highsmith, one of the most underrated pass rushers and honestly one of the better power rushers in the game. Highsmith is in a wide 9 technique alignment, which gives him a massive runway to be able to build up speed that he is going to convert into power upon contact. To be able to hold up here would require terrific anchor, and Cross does just that. Charles Cross boasts a really solid kick step, which is what we call the first step that tackles take as they get into their pass set. And the goal of this step is to just reach your landmark explosively, and if we pause this right at contact, Cross is in a pretty good spot. He is balanced between ensuring that Highsmith doesn't have an easy angle to the edge, while also making sure that he can stop any inside counter moves. Alex Highsmith lands his long arm move, and while Cross does go backwards, I love how quickly he resets. I think that there's a misconception that anchor is primarily just being really big and immovable, but I really couldn't disagree more. Yes, being a massive 360-pound offensive tackle would certainly help you have better anchor, but anchor is far more about understanding leverage and being able to quickly recover like Cross does right here. Cross is able to absorb this contact and re-anchor into another wide, balanced stance. And now Highsmith has lost pretty much all of his momentum, so Cross is just able to mirror him pretty easily, and he's stopped this bull rush. This is exactly what great anchor looks like. It is the ability to absorb contact and recover, and that is the most important factor to having this anchor that Cross needs to be able to be an elite offensive tackle. And Cross showed the entire package on this snap. But Cross also lost on a lot of bull rushes. Here in the same game and a similar situation versus Highsmith again, he looks completely different. Again, Highsmith is in that wide 9 alignment and Cross meets him in a pretty similar spot. But notice here how Cross is unable to reset his anchor. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want to re-anchor, you need to have both of your feet in the ground and a nice wide base and be balanced, and Cross just never gets to this spot. If we look at when initial contact occurs, Cross just looks unprepared. Instead of having his anchor all set up like he did in the last clip, now he is off balance when contact first begins. As a tackle, you are useless if you can't get into your pass set, and here Cross just doesn't have everything timed up properly. Look at his base right when he first makes contact. He is lucky that he doesn't completely fall over, and there's just no way you can generate power from this stance. Now look at his second stance. Again, his feet are not square and he doesn't have access to his power. His third stance is not that much better, and now he's been completely blown back into Gino's lap. From the same game against the same player, Cross delivers massively different results in terms of anchor, and this points to how inconsistent he was as a player last year. When Cross lost to power, it was because he never got into a powerful position himself. We can see this exact mistake in this play against the Cowboys. Again, Cross just starts in a bad spot. You need to be balanced and ready to absorb the impact when you make contact, and this is just a terrible starting place that sets him up for failure. He gets blown up and again isn't able to land in a powerful position, so he nearly takes out Gino's legs. I know that this looks obvious when you go frame by frame, but in real time this stuff is very difficult. You need to masterfully time up everything that you're doing to everything the edge rusher is doing to make sure that you're not early and he's not early. It is a lot. So it's going to take a lot of development for him to get a consistent anchor in the NFL, and that is what he's going to need to become that elite offensive tackle that Hawks fans all want him to be. So what about his athleticism to be able to cut off the edge? Well, that is actually pretty good, and this gives me hope that he someday could be that great tackle that we need him to be. Here on this play against the Cowboys, Cross does a great job of handling the speed rush from DeMarcus Lawrence. I know that some metrics and charting systems might say that this is a pressure allowed, but I actually think this is a pretty solid snap from Cross. He starts out by getting plenty of depth in his kick slide and gets to a fairly solid power position. I will note here that he's a little bit off balance and probably leaning too far forward. But again, that just shows you how much little things he has to clean up in order for him to be that true franchise tackle. But right here, Cross shows how athletic he truly is. Losing to the edge when the edge player is able to bend around that corner is just one of the worst ways to lose, because pretty often that's just going to result in a sack. So it's so crucial that Cross is able to stop that. And time after time, he has shown that he has the athleticism to do this. Yes, he does have some losses in this way as well, but I think those are primarily issues of technique at the beginning of the snap and not getting everything synced up properly, rather than the speed to keep up towards the end. I'm just not concerned, and I think he'll be able to clean up some minor issues and be able to shut down speed rushers in the future. Like almost all young tackles, Cross also had a pattern of losing to pass rushing moves as well. And those bull rushing and speed rushing are the two primary ways that pass rushers attack. Cross also lost to a lot of inside counters, spin moves, and a variety of other moves. And this is to be expected, and I think that this is one of the easiest areas to project growth, because as he sees these moves more, he's going to be able to better anticipate them and know what to do to be able to counter them. I'm not really worried about this improving. It's going to happen once he gets more experience, but this was yet another way that he lost a fair amount last year. The only conclusion that I can have after watching all of this film is that Cross is a pretty long ways away. He has a wide array of different ways that he loses and things that he needs to fix. I know that I'm mostly focused on technique in this video, but I do think he could benefit from adding a little bit more weight, which would make it easier to anchor down, and so another year in an NFL weight room will do him some good. And I'm also hopeful that Ryan Grubb, a former offensive line coach, and the Seahawks' new offensive line coach, Scott Huff, can make a dramatic impact on Cross and the rest of this offensive line. In my opinion, offensive line coach is probably the most important position coach, because there's simply so much technique that these guys need to get right snap after snap. And they honestly probably didn't get the best quality experience in college either. So this is the first time that they're really having to go up against elite edge rushers week after week. I think that Charles Cross can become an elite left tackle, but even being optimistic, I don't think that it's going to be this year. No, he is not a bust, but he does need to take a bunch of strides in order to be worth his draft pedigree. I hope that we can look back on this video in 6 months and laugh, because Cross has become some elite left tackle. But if I had to guess, I would say that he's probably 1.5 to 2 years away from really arriving as that franchise caliber guy. At the end of the day, I believe in Charles Cross, and I believe in this coaching staff. But things like this are going to take time.